plus the best in short track modified competition and controversy from New Smyrna Speedway. Plus Junior Hanley's looking to get dialed in the late model for racing action there. It's a picture-perfect day at the world's most famous beach, Daytona Beach, Florida. Everyone's having fun in the sun. But besides the fun in the sun, it marks the start of a new year in motorsport. Because in this edition of Race Week, we'll be taking a look at the excitement that builds towards the running of the prestigious Daytona 500. Hello, I'm Ben Dodge, and I welcome you to yet another edition of Race Week. Well, in this edition of Race Week, we're going to be moving away from the beautiful shores here at Daytona, head right where the action, the speed, and all of the excitement of motorsports begins, as things start to build up for the running of the Daytona 500 and much, much more. We'll also bring you a great look at short track competition for the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing at the New Smyrna Speedway. But right now, Speed Weeks begins with an event that is the highest paying per lap event of Speed Weeks. There's no question about it, and for 1991, it has a brand new format as we take a look at the Busch Clash and great qualifying action building towards the Daytona 500. It's now become a tradition at Daytona. It's the highest payday of them all, and a picture-perfect day to go racing. For this, the 13th annual Busch Clash at Daytona International Speedway. Now, the format was different for this event than previously in the past. There would be two segments in the competition here. The car that would win round number one would be starting in the back of round number two. Derek Cope and Kyle Petty would make up the front row with Alan Kowicki and Jeff Bodine. Then it was Brett Bodine and Dale Earnhardt, Dick Trickle, and Greg Sachs. As the field went to green, it appeared that Derek Cope had things under control heading into the first turn. Kyle Petty was not far behind when out of the pack would come car number 3 for Dale Earnhardt. It took Earnhardt no time at all to thread the needle and work his way into second. Jeff Bodine was a major factor, and once Earnhardt got into command, the battle became a battle for second. It was Bodine on the outside. Kowicki would fight back and contend. Ernie Irvin had led a pack of front runners to the front, as well as Ken Schrader was looking strong for a while. But it was Earnhardt who was the man in charge of this event, when suddenly Jeff Bodine would get out of shape and literally do a pirouette of spins with car number 11. It was a race right down to the checker at this point, and Earnhardt had won segment number 1. The story was now going to be a story of changing tires and inverting the field. That would put the number 3 car to the back of the pack. And Ernie Irvin, well, there was a problem with the brakes in the car. But once things got back to green, it took no time at all for Earnhardt to hustle with a 3-wide move to take over position number 1. Jeff Bodine was shocked. He started right up front, and he found himself in the 3rd spot. Suddenly, it was Ricky Rudd who would get crossed up once again. Derek Cope would also go spinning. As Rudd would slam the inside wall, Cope would hand grenade into the outside wall with his number 10. Rudd's day would end with a clash with the wall, and for Kenny Schrader, no luck at all. But back towards the front of the field, the luck was shining, and car number 3 was leading the pack of heavy hitters. Mark Martin was right there on his back bumper and really applying the pressure. But there was no question about it. The Good Wrench machine would be the car that would win the Busch Clash.
Really, we weren't sure what we wanted to do all week long, and we decided, well, heck, we're going to go for it. We're going to try to win the first one. We can win the first one, we'll have a shot at trying to win the second one. So we did that, and when we started, we got going pretty good and got by Schrader right through here in the short chute, and was on the outside through 1 and 2 down the back stretch. And I got down there in the middle of the corner, and there was an opening behind Brent on the low side, so I slipped down there and got by Brent through the trioval, off the trioval, and stayed on the bottom, just hung her on the bottom, and she come right up to the front. The air was working just right, the car was working. Came in behind Bodine, got by him down at the end of the back straight. I just couldn't believe we were in front in 2 laps. But this wasn't too bad at all, and I had a lot of doubts all week that we could do that, because I'd practiced with Mark and some of the cars and Elliott, and they were strong. So
did Mark have any shot at you at all?
Well, he was there, but I think he was a little on the loose side maybe. But the biggest problem I got now is worrying about the 500, because they've had time to see what their cars are going to do. They're not going to be setting up for a short race. They're going to be setting up for a long race than 500, so it's going to be a little more exciting, I think, than this next race.
The ARCA 200 was the next event up on tap, and Dorsey Schroeder, along with Jimmy Horton, would be making up the front row. Remember, Horton had won this event just 1 year ago. Second row, the veteran Red Farmer and Ben Hess. And row number 3, Bill Venturini and Kerry T. In the fourth row, it was Bob Bosher with Farrell Harris with car number 44. As the field would go to green, it looked for a while that things would be okay, when suddenly Red Farmer would get tangled up into the high side. Bill Venturini and Farrell Harris were also riding the wall all the way out of the turn and down the front straightaway. This would shuffle the deck a bit, and only the cream of the crop would be rising, when suddenly it was Bob Brayback who would spin and slam the wall hard with car number 34. But that wouldn't be the only casualty of the afternoon. Jerry Cook with car number 37 would do a pirouette of spins and perhaps be the hardest of the cars hit. But back on pit road, Ben Hess's crew was watching their man running at the front of the field. And Jimmy Horton was looking to make it 2 wins in a row. And not far behind with Bosher with car number 27. It was now on the restart, a race back to the line, when Horton would have a problem. The banking in the turns would prevent him from sucking up the final fuel in the tank of the automobile. This would set off a melee of cars spinning, as Horton had definitely dropped off the pace. As Hess would come back to the line, the yellow flag would be out. This would create a race right down to the wire and through the checker. There was no question about that. For Ben Hess's crew, they knew he would be in the winner's circle, and so he was. Finishing second would be Bobby Bowser over Kerry T, Jim Horton, and Suffield's own Joe Nimorowski to finish fifth.
The car worked real good. My crew did a heck of a job. They didn't see the car 2 days prior before we got here, and we climbed the big hill and we got on top.
You know, we needed to run the rest of the race under green. We would have made it. You know, there's no problem there. Cautions came right near the end, put Ben on my tail. You know, 20 to go. We had enough for him. We were just kind of riding around there. He got me loose a couple times, let him get by, but we had enough for him again. And then the caution right near the end, just riding around on the banking. Fuel just goes away from the pickup, and we just couldn't get the fuel on a restart. And there was that wreck. I don't know whether I caused it or, just by jumbling up things. But, the last few laps we just chugged around on the bottom, finished fourth. But, it's not what we came here to do.
They say that your first victory comes hard, and after that, the rest of them are easy. But at Daytona, the story for Horton was not a story of good luck. He actually ran out of gas. But for Ben Hess, it was a great day in the sun. And his luck and the excitement just didn't stop there. Well, next we'll be taking a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the modifieds and late models, short track style, from the new Smyrna Speedway for the World Series. Welcome back to Race Week. This is absolutely a beautiful setting, Daytona Beach. There's no question about it. And what a great atmosphere to go racing in. That's why a lot of the competitors from the northeastern region of the country come to the sunny south to be a part of short track racing. Bill Slater and the New Smyrna Speedway have hosted the series for several years. Fact is, this is the silver anniversary of the World Series. Let's take a look at short track racing as controversy begins right from the start of night number 1.
The World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing is the shootout for competitors in modified racing. It draws competitors from the NASCAR Modified Tour and open competition in short track racing as well. And this year's World Series drew over 25 cars in the pit area. The start of the series looked like any other. It was car number 99 for Tim Airy and Jeff Fuller on the outside. Ricky Fuller in his debut with car number 44 and the 36 of Mikey Winitsko. Into turn number 1, Air looked like the star of the show, and Ricky Fuller would hunt him down. Then Rick Fuller would change to the outside. Jay Hitchcock was running in the 4th spot, and Tom Baldwin would now work his way to the outside to contend. It was Ricky Fuller who pulled a bold, aggressive move to the inside to take over position number 1. Mikey Winitsko in the Hoosier Tire Machine had worked his way into 2nd, and Air was kind of hung out to dry on the outside. Jeff Fuller would now move in and take over the 4th spot, with Jay Hitchcock running in position number 5. Lap traffic would be heavy in the early laps of competition when Jeff Fuller and Hitchcock, with some help from Tom Baldwin, would slam the wall hard. It was Hitchcock who would be out of the competition with one severely damaged machine. as car number 41 was out of the series on night number 1. But for Jeff Fuller, it was a quick trip to the pit area. Then he'd have to do it from the back of the pack in Joe Brady's number 00. The number 41 would show the worst of the wear, but this wouldn't stop this team as they'd come back later with a brand new car. It was car number 44, Ricky Fuller, in command. Off the pace was Dale Holdridge with car number 28, further back in the pack. Tim Ayer and Tom Baldwin would battle among the top cars, but it was still Rick Fuller who was the star of the show. The Shark Lounge Macbeth's Racing Engines number 44 would win night number 1. It was Fuller's first time driving car number 44 and first visit to the winner's circle.
These guys, they just work real hard. You know, we had started off with a couple of problems. The car's working fantastic. You know, Mario is the best in the business, and we drew a couple of breaks on the racetrack. Car's running great.
25 laps was the distance for the late model division, and Raleigh McDonald was the man out in front. Rod Sonner would have a problem initially right on the start with car number 46. It was McDonald who was well in command when Eddie Meredith would try to work his way to the inside. Then Dick Anderson with the black number 92 would hunt down the 13 of Roddy McDonald. Junior Hanley was running the outside lane strong with car number 72. In fact, his Hanley was picking them off one at a time as Roddy McDonald was now in command of the event. Dick Anderson would run the inside groove. This was a three-car battle for position number 1. Hanley running aggressive on the outside. Contact was made with McDonald. Hanley would get crossed up, come back across the racetrack, and then spin to the inside of the racetrack, ending his hopes of securing the win on night number 1. In car number 13, Roddy McDonald was also down on pit road. But back to the front of the field, it was Dick Anderson in charge. He would be the man driving the pace up in front, and he would be the man to contend with. Not far behind was another battle between Pete Orr and the number 85 of Tim Steele. Steele was running aggressively on the outside with Orr on the inside. But it was still Dick Anderson in command, as Tim Steele had now moved in and was becoming a factor. Final circuit of competition, Dick Anderson would be the man to set in the winner's circle. Finishing in second was Tim Steele over Pete Orr in third. Fourth was Eddie Meredith, and fifth was Lee Falk.
Well, I tell you what, it was a real tough race, but especially when you got guys like Junior Hanley. Now, I was really fortunate. He was really flying, and he ran into a little problem there when the lead car got a little tangled up with him. But I feel fortunate to beat this kind of field. Anytime you race against this kind of competition for all over the United States, I'd have been tickled pink with just a top 5 finish. So you can imagine how ecstatic I am with winning the race, the first one of the speed weeks.
Saturday night competition was 25 laps in distance for the Model 5s, and the Hoosier Tire Machine of Mikey Winitsko will be starting on the inside of the front row. Outside of him, Jeff Fuller, second row, Tom Baldwin and Eddie DeHunt. Initially on the start, the field would come down, and Jeff Fuller would take advantage of things right from the start. It was Jeff Fuller in command for a while. Iwanitsko right there in his back bumper when Tom Baldwin would start to reel him in with car number 7. Jeff Fuller was still the leader of the event, and he would try to guard the inside lane when Tiger Tom Baldwin would keep it nice and low to try to pick up position number 1. Once in command, Baldwin would start to string it out and pull away at the front of the field. Jeff Fuller would tuck it back into second. Mikey Winitsko was still setting in the third spot, and Eddie DeHunt was still holding on for position number 4. Then it was Jay Hedgecock who would do some aggressive driving to work his way into the 4th spot. Hedgecock then would tuck it down low, down beneath Mikey Winitsko. Lap car Zachariah with car number 0 would shuffle the deck just a bit, but no real problems here. Then Jeff Fuller would have a tire go flat, a left front, forcing him out of the competition as he was contending for position number 2. While the caution was being displayed to the field, on the restart it was Tom Baldwin who took care of things once again. Mikey Winitsko had snuck back into second, and Eddie DeHunt was now up to third. Further back in the pack, Marcel Luttrell was getting a little bit out of shape as he was threading the needle to get to the front. Suddenly, Luttrell would have a problem. He would go around, and George Greco would slam into him with car number 5. This would bring out yet another caution in the competition. On the restart, they got bobbled up again. This time it was DeHunt and Rick Fuller who would come together. Right rear tire on the DeHunt number 9 would tell the story, as he too would be heading back to the pit area. But back up front, it was green and racing as usual. Tom Baldwin was inches out in front over Mikey Winitsko. The battle of the tires and much, much more was taking place in position number 1. And Ricky Fuller was watching all of this, and so wasn't Jay Hedgecock with car number 41. But it was Baldwin with the color black setting the pace at the front of the field. Ricky Fuller was not letting Baldwin or Iwanitsko run too far out of his side when Iwanitsko would dirt track it just a bit and gather it back. It was Rick Fuller who was now trying to muscle up enough steam both on the outside as well as the inside to hunt down on Tom Baldwin.
Off the turn, Fuller with some help would go around with car number 44. Front suspension damage would tell the story on the McVet's Racing engine number 44 on night number 2. But Tom Baldwin was still the man who was the star of the show. And with the checkered flag out, it was Tom Baldwin into the winner's circle. Mikey Vanitsko was second over Jay Hitchcock, Jeff Fuller, and Andy Romano. Tom Baldwin had won night number 2 in the World Series with car number 7. Teddy Christopher had won the SK bonus in the competition there. In Saturday night's late model competition for 25 laps, Robbie Thompson surprised the folks initially from the start. Rod Sauter would have a problem to get out of shape with car number 46. And there was no doubt about it, Dickie Anderson was definitely a factor. Suddenly a mix-up. Ronnie Burkett would go around. The number 92 of Rennie Kovalen would also be involved as he would go spinning in the 44 of Tim Fuller. Back towards the front of the field, the battle was on for the lead, and it was Anderson who had now taken over the number 1 spot. Anderson was looking good, but Junior Hanley was not far behind with car number 72. It was suddenly a battle of white versus black as Hanley would dial in on the bottom and start to motor on by with car number 72. Junior Hanley was now the star of this show, and Dick Anderson had to settle for second whether he wanted it or not. Further back in the pack, it was the 36 of Pete Orr who was running strong on the inside of the number 13 automobile for Ronnie McDonald, when suddenly Orr would have a problem and drop a little off the pace. Back towards the front of the field, Hanley was dialed in and looking like a shoe-in for the victory. He would take down the victory with ease. Finishing in the runner-up spot would be Dick Anderson over Ronnie McDonald and Bruce Lawrence and Lee Falk. Sunday night competition was 25 laps for the modified division. Tom Baldwin, by luck of the draw, would be starting right up front, and Ricky Fuller would also be a factor contending with him in the competition. Tim Ayer would run strong, and Jeff Jones would be a factor with car number 20. It was Baldwin in command when the Fuller brothers would work their way to contend for position number 2. Jeff Fuller on the inside, Ricky Fuller on the outside, dicing it up lap after lap. Tim Ayer would be setting in the 4th spot with car number 99. But it was Jeff Fuller who had inched his way into position number 2. Ricky Fuller was still trying to battle back on the outside lane as Tim Ayer would become a factor when contact would be made. Ricky Fuller would go around. Ed DeHunt would also be spinning when suddenly it was Zachariah with no place to go who hit the left front wheel in car number 9. Marcel Luttrell would also spin to avoid the mix-up. But back to green, it was car number 7 for Tom Baldwin still in command. Final circuit of competition, Jeff Fuller would dive from the inside, but Baldwin would take down the victory. Jeff Fuller would finish second over Tim Ayer and third over Jay Hitchcock and Mikey Vanitsko to round out the top 5. Late model main event once again. It was car number 13 for Wally McDonald on the inside. Bruce Lawrence with car number 16 would run strong on the outside. But as the field went into turn number 1, it was Lawrence who took command of the lead. Wally McDonald would have to settle for second when Dick Anderson would come out of the pack and sneak his way into position number 1. Junior Hanley was not far behind with car number 72. As Hanley knows how to muscle up the steam on the outside, he would take over position number 2. Then once into the second spot, position number 1 came easy. It was Hanley in command once again as he would hold down and take down the impressive victory. Finishing in second was Dick Anderson over Bruce Lawrence. Lee Falk again for 4th over Eddie Meredith. Hanley's visit to New Smyrna was already starting to pay off. Well, the story so far has been 2 for 2. 2 wins for Junior Hanley in the late models and 2 for Tom Baldwin. Now, both of those competitors were considered the experts going into the World Series. Well, now it's time to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be taking a look at more nights of the World Series and just how good that Tom Baldwin and Junior Hanley will be, or how good their luck will be, as we come back right after this. Welcome back to Race Week. Well, as you can see, the beaches are getting crowded, and so aren't the races. We've already witnessed 3 nights of competition at the World Series. Well, now it's time to move on to the beginning of the next week. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Tom Baldwin, who's been more than aggressive in the competition, who made it known how he wants to compete in the South, has been the man that's won, too. But Ricky Fuller is looking to get back into the limelight, and so is his brother Jeff. We'll see how they do as the World Series continues from New Smyrna.
Monday night's competition saw car number 99, Tim Ayer, run a surprise in this year's series. From Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, Jeff Jones with the yellow number 20 starting right up front. As the field went to green, it was Ayer who took command of things and initially started to pull away. Hitchcock had snuck in the second, and Mikey Vanitsko was quickly up to position number 3.
There was no doubt about it there'd be a real battle shaping up as Tom Baldwin and car number 44, Ricky Fuller, were threading the needle and working their way to the front of the field. Tim Ayer was the leader, and now Rick Fuller had stuck in the second. Ivanitsko was setting in the third spot over car number 41 for Jay Hitchcock. And rounding out the top 5 was the 7 of Tom Baldwin. Ivanitsko would tap the bumper. Then Rick Fuller was all over Tim Ayer, who was bobbling just a bit when Rick Fuller would go to the outside. But Tim Ayer would take down the victory over Ricky Fuller and Mike Ivanitsko. Late model main event of competition. Again, Raleigh McDonald was trying hard on the inside, but it was car number 92 for Dick Anderson to take over position number 1. Anderson, once in command, thought he'd have things well underway until Junior Hanley broke out of the pack just a bit. Down the back straightaway, McDonald would have a problem. He'd make contact with Hanley. Both of them would slam the wall hard. Bruce Lawrence would also be involved with car number 16. A melee would occur right at the start of the competition. 2 severely damaged race cars, the Raleigh McDonald machine, car number 13, and the Junior Hanley number 72. Now, Hanley was looking for the points in this series, and he would have his work cut out for him if he hoped to make it back in the competition here. But when the field went back to green, initially it was again car number 92 for Dickie Anderson in command. Further back in the pack, several positions were being diced up and tossed up, but there were no real challenges occurring up front. It was Anderson who was still the driving force at the front of the field, as he would impressively hold on. Eddie Meredith would finish in the runner-up spot over Lee Falk, Robbie Thompson, and Dave Eisen to round out the top 5. Tuesday night, 5 nights into the competition for the World Series, saw Tim Ayer jump into an early lead. Ricky Fuller was running the runner-up spot, and Eddie Hunt was now setting in the 3rd spot. Tom Baldwin was right behind DeHunt. He'd wrap him to the back bumper as they come off the 2nd turn, and that suddenly would become the battle among the top 4 positions. Meanwhile, as Baldwin would reel in DeHunt, he'd give him a tap and send him around. Tom Baldwin was now hunted down by Jay Hitchcock, as DeHunt would try to get back into the hunt with car number 9. But now the new battle was for position number 1. Ricky Fuller had taken it over as Tim Ayer was forced to settle for 2nd now. Mike Ivanitsko was hung out to dry on the outside when suddenly Ricky Fuller would back up just a bit. Mechanical problem with the rear end with car number 44, which sent Tim Ayer back towards the front of the field. Sparks would fly, tempers would flare, closing laps in the competition. Ivanitsko and Jeff Fuller were off the pace as Rick Fuller would have a problem with the rear end. And Ed DeHunt, well, he had cut a tire on the debris, and he would go spinning in turn number 1. Final 2 circuits would tell the story in this one as the caution came out again. And Tim Ayer and Jeff Fuller would send up some sparks as Tom Baldwin had snuck into position number 2. Mike Ivanitsko was off the pace with the left front tire going flat with car number 36. And Tim Wiggins and Jeff Jones were also becoming factors among the top 10 cars. Mike Christopher was looking for another SK bonus with car number 82, and Jay Hitchcock was threading the needle to get dialed in and head back to the front of the field in the competition here. But for Mike Ivanitsko, it was a tough night for car number 36 as he was trying to ride it out in the final 2 circuits of competition. And ride it out he would. Back down the back straightaway, it was Jeff Fuller who had taken over position number 1. Tim Ayer didn't know what happened to him. He had to settle for 2nd. And Tom Baldwin was not far behind. But when the checkered flag was out, it was Jeff Fuller to win his first event of the series over Tim Ayer, Tom Baldwin, Marcel Luttrell, and Rick Zachariah. It was Jeff Fuller's first win of the series and the first win of the season with car number 00 in the wildest night of the World Series. Late model main event was again 25 laps in distance, and it was Anderson who slammed on the throttle once again to get an early jump. Dick Anderson had actually led more of the early laps than any other competitor, but Junior Hanley and Lawrence were already starting to get hitched up and head to the front of the field. It was Eddie Meredith with car number 25 who was going strong when Hanley would tuck it to the inside to pick up the spot. Junior Hanley was in charge as car number 7 was also a factor for Jimmy Powers. But Hanley was the driving force once again as he would take down the victory. Dickie Anderson in for 2nd over Dave Eisen in 3rd, Pete Orr and Lee Falk. Well, as he said at the start after the commercial break, it was a new week and a new deal. For Tom Baldwin, that deal and that new week hasn't paid off well. But for Ricky Fuller and Mike Ivanitsko, they have done well. And for the true champion, Junior Hanley, he showed his stuff as he's back in the winner's circle once again. Well, that's going to kind of wrap things up for this edition of Raceweek. On the next edition of Raceweek, we'll bring you more of the excitement and a champion of the World Series of Asphalt Stock Car Racing from New Smyrna. We'll also bring you more great racing action from the Daytona International Speedway. Well, it's time for me to change my clothes. I'm done for the day and have some fun in the sun, because that's what Daytona Beach is all about. We'll see you next time for the best in motorsports coverage exclusively only here on Raceweek. Take care. Bye-bye now.